Sure. Thank you so much, Erin. So yes, my name is Mercedes Arciniega, she, her pronouns. And yes, I'm so excited to be a part of the Stand Up Alaska family. And as she mentioned before that, I've been a part of ACJ, or the Alaska Coalition for Justice, since early 2023 at my previous place at ACPIRG, which a bunch of our coalition partners. So I will say that a big part of what I possess in like my knowledge about the police department is a kind of an interesting story. So my wife and I, frankly, have always been pretty critical of law enforcement in general. And I wonder why. As being both queer women and women of color and culture, and have had our own experiences with the police or had family members or friends that have gone through unacceptable things. My wife, a few years ago, had the opportunity to work for the police department as deputy communications director at the time. And that was something that was way beyond us, but bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thought we could try to do some good work from within the belly of the beast. And of course, that came at a huge cost because my wife was the one voice out of a few, often at times, the only woman, the only person, the only Latino or any sort of color or culture in the room, the youngest, and was always having to be the voice of reason. And of course, that took a toll. And I was lucky to say that she ended up moving on to Austin Quinn Davidson's mayoral tenure and got out of that. But we both said that for everything that she absorbed and she learned there, that we would use that knowledge for good. And that is what I have done now, is to take that. And she tells me all the dirty dirt on there. All the things that you think you're seeing or you're feeling about, that your gut's telling you, I'm going to tell you right now, behind closed doors, that's exactly what's happening. And it's sad because we like to think of our departments being different. And in a lot of ways we are, but we are not, in terms of our Anchorage community, we're not immune to the things that are going on in the lower 48. They're happening here. I mean, my goodness, literally a block over was where they found that poor girl who's been missing since January. And I had that conversation with my wife in the car about why are they not publicizing it? Well, unless they're like, well, they're not going to do it unless they're, I think, a child, or there's one other like factor about it, or they're the elderly. But they're not going to do it. And, like, even though missing MMIP is a real thing, like, yeah, but if they're going to do it for them, we have to do it for everybody, and they just don't want to have to do the work for it. Unacceptable, right? Yeah, that's exactly why they know what's going on, but they're just going to treat it like any other sort of missing persons, not realizing that the huge impact that it has on the Indigenous population here in our state is affected by that. And so they won't make any concessions. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, of like, we have some core parts in the police department that we can work with, but as Erin put it, there needs to be a concerted effort from the community to tell them this is not what we want. We do not want to continue in that direction. As we're familiar with, was it last year or 2 years ago that we had this, now it feels so long, but we had the string of OISs, or officer-involved shootings, that resulted in the death of a child. Let's be real here. With really no sense of accountability. And while we're going to hear from the police department, well, we have a new chief, we're trying new things, give us time, give us this. But how many times have we been told that? For those of us who've lived here our entire lives, or lived here for decades, have seen the repetitive cycle that they're always telling us, give us more time, give us more time. But in giving that more time, more lives are lost, more lives are hurt.
I was going to say, Easter doesn't have any more time.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, what? Tell that to Easter. Tell that to the Leafa family. Tell that to Catherine. Yeah. Tell that to the May family. Because every day they have to wake up wishing for more time with their loved one. And that's unacceptable. And no matter what they try to tell you about giving this, giving that, oh, we have a lull here, we have a lull. I don't want to have to wait until it's another peak. We should be dealing with it, period, so that we don't have another peak. So that's where we need more of our community to come in and realize you have a voice. Every time that you see at the assembly, when they have those long lines, right, for public comment, that does have an impact. Just as a raise of hands, if comfortable, has anyone done a public comment before? Okay, cool, a few people. And it's actually, it seems scary, but it is a way for your assembly members and the local government to understand, to see and to hear the lists of people that come through. It's funny because I guess RIP to save Anchorage, but they say what you want about them, but they were really good for a short amount of time mobilizing like crazy. I mean, they're bringing food in. They're like, oh yeah, bring your kids. It'll be a whole thing. And it was successful. I mean, it made a lot of noise, didn't necessarily always change the tide, but trust that stuff gets burned into the memory of the assembly members and the constituents that they represent. So there is something that matters. Did you have a question?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Is what you're talking about in relation to the concerns we have about ICE and some of the abuse from outside, any of that kind of permeating up here in regards to what we're dealing with?
Well, as far as I know right now, I haven't heard of any sort of blatant or obvious interaction between APD and, federal forces, so to speak. It's not to say that that's not off the table, because we've heard things from Chief K saying, oh, we'll never sign a contract, or we're not going to do that. And then there was some like nebulous things that he said, I don't know, like a couple months ago that made me feel like, I don't know if that's completely off the table. So just we need to keep our eyes open, because what I will say, at least outside of Anchorage, statewide, Kodiak, like before we saw the how much it amplified at the beginning of this year, right? In 2025, at my previous place that I worked at, I was overseeing a group of Filipino women who did get out the Filipino vote in Kodiak. And then for the latter half of 2025, all we talked about was how Kodiak police was harassing Filipino people, regardless of whether they were immigrants, green card, US citizens, because they had a contract with federal to do their bidding. So, and we also know that the Department of Corrections has had a contract. There's been all kinds of other law enforcement or adjacent agencies that are doing this kind of stuff. So I will say, while I haven't heard or seen anything, obviously, that's not to say that's off the table. And like Aaron said, absolutely keep your eyes open on that stuff. Yeah.
Questions that maybe with your experience here, what if you can answer. So the first is, it seemed like a few years ago during the Walker administration, the Department of Corrections was changing. Like there was kind of a sea change. I don't know if that's true or not. I wasn't directly involved with it. But then of course, when that administration was gone, we didn't seem to have those conversations anymore. So I was wondering about if there was any actual change. And then my second question is, I've been trying to go to that Citizens Police Academy for so long, and it literally fills up the day they let you know about it.
Yep.
I wondered if you're aware, like, is there any value in, like, I don't know.
I can definitely speak to both of the, well, at least more in the second point. The first point, I really can't speak on that. I honestly don't know.
I can tell you that the Department of Corrections has not changed. You're right. During the Walker administration, there was hope. It is gone.
Okay.
They are really running it as a for-profit. And we all know that if you run an institution like that for profit, the people that are within that institution kind of suffer, right?
Absolutely.
Because the motive, the profit motive makes it so that you're using those people. And they're doing the same thing with ICE, quite frankly. That's one of the reasons why you see them rounding up people, because they're getting paid for every single night that somebody stays in a detention facility.
Yeah.
And so they're arresting US citizens and making them stay for 5 days, because that's 5 days worth of pay. It is all about the money. And Department of Corrections is running very much the same way. And it's something that, as the Alaska Coalition for Justice, we haven't had the bandwidth to take it on. And it's one of the reasons why We want to open up the coalition to more people because we do need the bandwidth to be able to not just look at APD, but keep an eye on what's happening with ICE and the federal forces and state troopers.
Yep.
And Department of Corrections. And so we really do want to reinvigorate the Alaska Coalition for Justice with more people. Because right now, it's about 10 people that hold it down.
Yeah.
That's not enough. We need more capacity. So, I'm sorry.
No, please. That's more than I had.
Ice detention center?
I haven't seen any and I've been looking. It's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would they put in it?
Those.
What would they put in it?
They don't.
I mean,
Like there are, did you hear me say they're arresting US citizens?
no.
Anybody that has melanin in it, they have arrested people that have their ID on them.
Yep.
Saying that they're US citizens, disappearing them for a couple of days, and then releasing them without charges. Like that's what they're doing in the lower 48. Could that happen up here? Absolutely. If we
But
don't
are we
keep
gonna
our
allow
eyes
a
open.
center? Are we gonna allow a detention center? And if there is,
Hell
are
no.
we gonna be ahead of the ballgame as, do we have feelers like you guys and some of the other?
Well, part of the problem is that the people they're picking up here, they're shipping down to Washington.
Yeah.
Or they're sticking them in Anchorage jail.
Yep.
So, and that's for the ones that are underage, in Anchorage jail with all the other adults.
We don't have an immigration court.
Yes, so they're sending them to Seattle, and then like she said, when they're done, they put you out on the street, good luck getting home.
Yeah.
That's horrible. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Please, this is important conversation. That's a great question. To your point about Citizens Academy, so that's something that I've been trying to get into because it opens like basically 2 semesters for like 4 or 5 years now. And the same thing, they always tell me, I'm like, when does it open? They're like, oh, keep your eye out. And then when I keep my eye out, it's already gone. What I will say though, is that Citizens Academy, I do have a background in that because my partner used to film all and like go through the Citizens Academy with them. So what you'll see them do in there is they'll do training, like mock situations. So they'll rent out a hotel or like a block of hotel rooms, and they will work through DV situations. They will rent out coots and go through an active shooter or a bar fight situation. They will rent out hand shoe, and they will do an active shooter training. They also have courses in how you're, like weapon management, vehicle management. I sat in on one session with detectives that talked about the Samantha Koenig case. So there is some interesting benefits in just getting the insider view of it. Now, if you can't get into it, what I would recommend, which is what I did after a while, being like, well, crap, I'm tired of waiting around. I would sign up for a ride-along and or a sit-along. So ride-alongs are where you sign up, it goes through community relations unit. So that's like their comms unit. It's where my partner used to work. And they will set you up with an officer. You can figure out which shift, what time you want to go. And then you ride the entire shift with them and you go with them everywhere you go. And I did that back in August and it was very eye-opening. From that, I was able to learn that the cars that they have out there, all those, the newer cars that you're seeing, total crap cars. They had a deal with whatever it was like Dodge or whatever saying, hey, we used to serve a bunch of law enforcement fleets and now no one's buying them. Crap cars. We have a special deal. Do you want to buy them? Now, APD has been long overdue for vehicle replacement, especially with all those old Crown Vics that are just literally breaking down. So like, cool, we'll grab those. These cars are so cruddy that they can't keep their car on. They're like, when I was sitting in Fallout, which is like their beginning meeting before they go off into their shift, they're like, hey guys, you got to turn your vehicle off. You're running them down. These cars are going to, crap out on you. And all these officers get into the vehicle with the officer I'm with, and turns out that they need to run those vehicles because Axon, the one who runs their body cams and their dash cams, has to operate with internet. It has to operate with some sort of internet connection. It only operates though, now they used to have it on their laptop, they could take it wherever they go. It is connected to the car. So if they're gonna do any of their notes, they're gonna do any of their filing, gonna look up anything, they have to have the car running. Otherwise, you gotta, what they used to be able to do is just like sit in their car and do whatever. They will have to physically leave their vehicle and go into a substation or the station and then do all that stuff, which is really time consuming and really just a waste of time when you could just do it right there. And then they turn off the car, and as I'm sitting there, we're doing it with their little meetup, and the other vehicle, both my officer and the officer in the other car had turned off their vehicles, turned them back on. They're like, can't get on the internet. And like for 30 minutes couldn't get on the internet. Imagine all the things that can happen in 30 minutes not having access to that. And the officers are pissed. And they're pissed at the command staff. Also from that experience, I learned a lot about how they're like, listen, we don't want to be abating these camps. I went with one of them because I live in that Spenard area, and there is this tent that I would always see right outside of Starbucks on Minnesota Northern Lights area. And we finally went up to this guy, and they're like, we don't want to do this. And I was like, this is right when they'd also just passed that ordinance too about, making it illegal out there. And I was like, have you guys got anything? Well, and he's like, well, we typically get some sort of memo from the higher ups within that week. We still haven't gotten anything. It had been like 2.5 weeks already. So they didn't even know how to follow this policy. And these officers were like, well, let's just go over and tell them. And then they just left, and they're like, well, that was a waste of time. Like, could have just left them alone kind of thing. So it's interesting hearing some of the discrepancies or things that you don't think that the officers are actually bothered by with their command staff, and that there's an incongruence in like what should be happening, and they feel very undersupported. Also, when it comes to like, I was asking like, what are the majority of the calls that you take in? It's like mental health. That is the majority.
Isn't that part of why we need a civilian review board though?
Exactly. Which is a great segue into that.
Well, first of all, can you kind of give an overview of what it is, and then why Anchorage needs it?
Can we do introduction?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was how we do that. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sure.
I forgot. I
Yeah,
forgot.
please. Yeah.
We got into the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
100%. We already introduced ourselves, so you go.
I'm Lisa. I'm volunteer coordinator. I do orientation. I've been around for about a year.
She's a banner babe.
That's right.
Lisa.
Hi, I'm John. I'm her husband, and John Wade, and I pick things up and put them down. If Camille says jump, I just
Yes, John.
Banner boy.
My name's Karen. I'm one of the Karens.
There's 4 carrots.
I'm a collector. And I have a kitty. Most people know that I have a kitty. She's in the car. Let's see, and I love making signs with Muslim. I'm really in love with them. And I think fairness is imperative. That's why I'm here, because I got mad. Really, really mad. And I met Mark. We were just having fun.
Where is Mark?
He's in Montana. He's in Montana, yeah. Yeah, but it's really nice to be a part of this group, because it's so positive.
Well, I'm so glad you came. Thank you, Karen. What is that, quadruple?
Yeah.
Times 4.
4K4.
Call me Nimble for lunch.
My name's Allison. Most people call me AK because that's my initials.
What's up, AK?
Which also means huh, what in Spanish, so I think that's kind of useful. But I also, I got inducted into SPAM, the Spenard Political Action Movement, through meeting Mark some years ago. So I am generally not as out in the public, but I have been going to the No Kings rallies with you guys, and realized that actually one of the best things I could do is I took his cue, and dressing up ridiculously and waving my ginormous American flag has been A, fun, and B, highly effective. So it actually feels good. That's something I would have never done. I'm not a hippie or any of that stuff. And so
Me either.
Yeah. But I live in Spenard, and I would love to see younger people. Like I want, my great love is I really want to get young candidates out there, and I don't know how to do it. And I can bore you someday with statistics.
We want to create a Stand Up Alaska chapter at UAA. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
that's
Talk to Tina. Talk to Tina from last Sunday or last Saturday. Or is that it? One of those. There's Tina and Tamara. Is that right? No,
tomorrow.
one of those
Yeah.
guys. One of those guys.
Well, speaking of a young person,
Hey.
That's why when you said, we need more young people here, it was like,
I'm right here.
look how much gray.
Hi everyone, my name is Kiana. I help out with our social media team. If you see me standing in a corner taking pictures, I promise it's for a good reason. It's for our page. If you don't want to be in a picture, you just tell me and I'll prop you out. But yeah. So,
Well, everybody knows me by now. My name is Camise, and I am the person who tells John how high to jump. And I love it. So if you follow directions, you're the one for me. So I just do whatever I am allowed to do around here to make things go smoothly. That's my job, and I love it, and I love you all. I'm also in love with democracy.
Amen.
And I just love being here, and I love you all. Thank you so much.
You right here. You look like horrified. Like
I am horrified.
it's okay. If you want to pass, you can. But I would love to know.
My name is Natasha, and I work for a nonprofit and just want to do more for my community. And Edie over here said we should check it out, and so here we are.
Where did you hear about it? Where did you hear about Food Spot?
I have been following Stand Up Alaska on Facebook.
There you go.
I'm new to Anchorage. I moved here in the fall. I work.
From where?
So I spent over 10 years in Sitka, but then I spent time in Boston in the interim going back to school. So I'm here now. I work at the same nonprofit Natasha does. Looking to get involved, looking to make friends. The text you sent that was like, bring a friend to this event. I was like, oh, I'm still working on making friends. I'll invite Natasha. But yeah, just follow everything you guys do in the No Kings rallies and also the other things. And so have been wanting to come to an event. I'm glad it finally made it.
Right on.
I am Donnie Spyfield. I just a long-time Alaskan. I grew up downtown, ran around in Spinard. Still run around in Spinard. I'm kidding. And I have been watching things very closely since the shit show started. And my grandfather was killed in Auschwitz, so I feel like I have a responsibility for human rights, all human rights. That's about it. Lots of sleepless nights, but
Is she your grandfather?
yes, I know. I'm waiting for my mom's birth certificate so I can see her parents, their names, because I don't know much. I only know parts and pieces, what she could remember. Right. She was a little girl when under Hitler, and then when the Russians and Americans came. So that was she had some stories. So and seeing the pattern recognition, and I feel like I don't understand why other people don't see it. I just am like, even if you are a Republican, how can you not see the patterns that are happening that are similar? Right now, he's getting rid of all of his middle, all the middle. So what they consider to be like a mid-management, same thing.
Yeah.
Other guy did. So anyway, so I am able to help out more now. I'm retired, and I've worked for the nonprofits, and I just want to be more involved. So it's important
being here,
and we do need more younger people to step up to be in the local politics. There's a few that came out, but they were on, you know, they're not fully democratic.
But also, it's a tough campaign for young folks to run against these incumbents.
It is, and the money situation is an issue, and that needs to be made more fair, because this whole APAC and all just the private funding of whoever has the most money wins is just not okay. And I don't know how that works. I mean, it shouldn't influence, but it does, you know, so.
Saturday Solidarity at that church on 18th. We've got Tina with League of Women in the Voters, and they were talking about how to get high schoolers involved in registering. But she had a connection with, and I worked with youth for a number of years. So, I mean, there are connections out there.
Yeah.
You can get some active, but see, most of these I know.
Why don't you start a debate team with high schools? Good after school
I mean, you
debate.
gotta hit them with their time and their money. That's the whole thing. They're so busy getting on their feet to figure out living, like, they don't have a lot of time to figure out the rest of it. So it's like,
Well, if we don't help them figure it out, it's gonna
Exactly,
be
yeah.
hard.
I'm just suggesting
Yeah.
that there's some really strong views out there,
Yeah.
obviously. And welcome to love.
The Anchorage Chamber of Commerce has a real good connection with the Anchorage School District, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Okay, so next.
You in the yellow kitty hat. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for coming. You, come on.
My name's James.
Hi, James.
Thank you for coming.
We've been coming here for a while.
Oh, yeah. But you have to introduce yourself just by you.
These are our new places.
Yeah. 100%. We're gonna start. I see you back there, Annalise.
I am
I'll finish if you don't mind. Oh, okay.
Well, I'll say something. My name's Brian, and I'm taking on the name of Poster Boy. I'm running around popping posters up all over town. And I'm also very involved in the poetry jams that we have, and we bring out some beautiful stuff.
Help me with posters.
He's an amazing poet. He's an amazing poet. Yes, and artist.
Right on.
My name's Conan. I'm an organizer here at Stand Up, and I directly affect the Poetry Slam. We have a place that we work out of called Paradise Club. It's about birdies, where we do events on the weekends, and it's a continual get out to vote concert series, trying to bring a certain demographic together so we can reach
Those young
them better.
people.
Yep.
Yeah. How many people did you guys have this weekend?
Just about 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the charming young man holding the microphone is.
You.
My name is Ibrahim. I mostly do the filming for Stand Up Alaska, and also I do a podcast and I talk about natives and indigenous people going missing. That is one of the topics I'm talking about right now.
So you should subscribe to Mad Alaska, because he does podcasts every day.
Awesome.
And he brings up stuff that you don't hear in the news. It's very interesting. And he goes to weird places like
Don't forget
Alaska.
one more over.
I saw you at home. What's it called? It's called Mad Alaska. Yeah, he's amazing. He's an amazing videographer.
Okay.
Last but definitely not least.
My name is Annalise, and I am wrapping up some time that I've spent working with Stand Up Alaska and moving on for now, but I'll still be around. But I wanted to say one of the last things that I did was put something on our website. So if everyone, while we are at this discussion tonight, can go on their smartphone, there is a one-click letter to submit to the Anchorage Assembly on behalf of the Alaska Coalition for Justice, saying that the Assembly. Oh, awesome! Thank you, Erin. Basically, it's saying that we support the work that the Alaska Coalition for Justice is doing, and we demand that the Assembly doesn't kind of half-ass their proposition that they're putting forth. So if you go to standupalaska.org, there's a tab right now that says Take Action, and it's ready for you to just put your name in and hit send, and it'll go to the entire Assembly. So if everybody in this room did it, we'd have like, I don't know, an additional 20-something emails that would hit them, and they would hopefully notice us a little bit more. Yeah. And Erin was just showing that on the back of the program for tonight, there's actually a QR code that would take you there.
And if you're scary about QR codes, we can give you a tutorial. We made the QR code, you can trust it. If you need us to help you, we will walk you through. It's all right, take the step. Okay. Scan the code.
Oh, no, I came up with an app, so I downloaded that.
What a civilian review board is and what it is not, and how do we get it?
Yeah. So a civilian review board, and you'll often hear it as a CRB. Some people also call it an independent review board, but for all intents and purposes, we'll just talk about CRB. So this is a board of folks, not police, that like is made up of regular citizens or folks that at least have some sort of maybe background in mental health, background in legal, some certain different perspectives that isn't just law enforcement, that come together and are separate from the police department, so they wouldn't be under law enforcement. Now, where it lives kind of depends on where you are. There are CRBs all over the country, and they all have different types of ways that you can operate or where they can live. But generally speaking, the biggest thing is that it is independent of police. And the idea is that it's supposed to hold said police accountable for things that we often are asking, who's doing anything about this? And all that we're ever met with is, well, it's going into internal affairs, or it's being handled by the department. But it's police policing the police. So how much can we always trust in that, right? Especially when we see the outcomes or a lack thereof of follow through. And a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't tell you, we can't release any of this information. But a CRB has special powers that allow either access to certain types of records, things that wouldn't be readily available to the public. And this allows, like I said, for that other type of accountability. So if there's an officer involved shooting or some sort of other complaint that you have with the police department, that would be able to be processed and reviewed, potentially investigated, again, depending on what the model is. And then outcomes can be everything from recommendations to full-on investigations. Again, different types of outputs. I don't know if we've listed, yeah, we did. If you get a chance, NACOL, so the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, is a great resource. So that is listed here on the page. So if you want more information on just like how different types of CRBs operate, what different forms they are, we have within ACJ, that is what we've based all of our stuff on, all of our research, all the things that we've interviewed, like we've gathered from, even directly from NACOL. So the principles that we want to follow to make it effective follow under NACOL principles. I guess the other part of that is that when people are like, why do we need independent oversight? I'm like, well, my easiest answer is, if what we were doing right now worked, would we be sitting here right now having this conversation? Probably, right? But we're here. So that means that there has to be something different or something that's new. We've had plenty of time. So if you look at here, like why Anchorage needs one now, right? So just because we're in Anchorage doesn't mean that we're not affected. Like I said, we're not immune to this. And, overwhelmingly, BIPOC folk have been the people that have been feeling the ramifications of this. And we've asked for help for plenty of years. We've asked for the transparency with the police department, and we are still not getting it. So this isn't just like a one-time thing that we've asked the police to make changes for. This has been happening for years. I mean, you talk to Leroy Williams, our good buddy within ACJ, I mean, he'll just tell you this is just a broken record, right? And it's just over and over again. it's not also like I mentioned, that this is a one-off thing. There are plenty of cities across the country that are doing this and doing it successfully. Now, Chief Case will tell you, well, when I go to these conventions and I talk to these chiefs, we have such low morale in these departments. People don't want to become police officers there. I'm like, well, people probably don't want to become police officers because they don't want to kill other people. Maybe they would want to join the institution if it was actually about peacekeeping. But I think you're missing the point about why your recruitment and retention is failing. You're getting the wrong people in there. Additionally, we have other parts of the state that are either willing to, that we can look at model-wise. I think we listed here Nome and Palmer have things that they're working towards. And we also have other cities about our size that are doing this. So if you want to look at I think there's one example. They're a little bit larger, but Spokane is it also has a CRB formula right now. I know that in larger cities like Oakland and Seattle, they also have CRBs, different forms. And it's not like it's a perfect system, right? There's gonna be little kinks that you have to work out along the way. But what we have seen after a presentation actually with someone from NACOL that came up here several months ago was that there are statistics showing that not only does this help the public have transparency with the police department and build that trust, for the police, it actually helps them. It helps, I don't literally mean exonerate, but just in a more casual term, it does actually help support those who are doing proper policing and doing their job when somebody does come forward with a complaint and it's found to be, either they have no leg to stand on and actually the officer was in the right. So it just allows, again, another layer outside of the police department to be able to investigate this and then also build that community trust from police officers in the department with the citizens and constituents that they're serving. Now, CRBs that are effective, so listing out some of these elements. So as I mentioned, independence from the police department, right? Because it just looks weird if it's living right underneath it. Subpoena power, which that one's a harder one. We'll acknowledge that that's a harder one for CRBs across the country to come across because, as Aaron hinted at, the police unions are usually the ones that are putting up the biggest fight. So when we had the issue with the body cams here in Anchorage, a lot of that back and forth was with APDEA, with the union. And I'll tell you right now, the union is dead against this, dead against the CRB, which is not surprising, but they feel like they just don't want to be under a microscope and it's going to be poor morale for the officers. Yes?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what subpoena power means. Because I don't really know what that means.
Sure.
Can you give a tiny little idea?
Being able, sure. Well, being able to call in people that are involved, either that's officers, the people, if there's an officer involved shooting, having that subpoena power and be able to call in that officer, the officers that were accompanying the said officer involved in the shooting, the victims or victims' families, they would be able to interview them the way that kind of like a lawyer, any other sort of investigative, Otherwise, and of course, with that kind of in the police department opens this door for people to walk through that they don't want because that's way too close. They're getting into your business. Now they're seeing how things are made in the kitchen, if that makes sense. So. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. So in independent investigative staff, again, note that this is not IA. It's not internal affairs. This would be whether that's the CRB itself. Some models will actually have an inspector general, an IG, that will work either in tandem or oversee that CRB, and they're the ones that are doing the actual investigation.
And here we're talking about
police, so we have to be real about the barriers that we're up against, the walls that we're facing. Having a civilian review board that has a diverse array of perspectives, right? Different backgrounds, different work, different life experiences. It's not just not just police. I know that previously we had not quite a civilian review board, but I don't even know what you called it, a gathering to talk about public safety and then have a few token people that were just disregarded, and then it fell apart in sunset. Nothing came of that. I don't even remember what it's called.
I went to one, and basically what it was a chance to complain to the police chief. It was,
that was it.
He was on the phone, and it was 7 people at the Fairview Rec Center, and they had complaints about, I mean, it was literally random people just saying, a cop was mean to me, and I want justice. And he would come up with some platitude, and it was very odd.
Yeah. So there you go.
There was no purpose to it because they called it oversight, but they weren't discussing any police involved shootings. Like, they weren't discussing that at all. It was basically a complaint line. And I was like, why do we do this? Doesn't make any sense.
See, yeah, I didn't even get to attend it when it was in any sort of iteration, but seeing as that's how that goes, not really surprised that it ended up falling apart and was seen by, I think, the Bronson administration at the time as being ineffective, so they sunset it, of course. So, before though, they had police officers on there and ex cops that were on there, and that was the biggest thing. People were like, this doesn't feel good. And I get it, because we want to have some sort of, pass by real quick. There you go. Won't compete against that. And there is something to be said about having some sort of perspective, and kind of similarly talking about ride-alongs and Citizens Academy. And there are officers that I know who are no longer in the department because they were like my partner. They were tired of being eaten up and spit out so many times that they were like, you know what? I try to do good work here, but gonna take this knowledge and do what I can with it. So if any sort of law enforcement is going to be represented, or former law enforcement, those are probably the people that you're going to want on there that have perspective, but are not going to support just,
when they
boys
first
club.
started the first iteration of this, it wasn't even a civilian review board. I think they said it was 75% police officers or former police officers.
That's wacky.
Which isn't going to give you a good perspective on what the community thinks about how it's being policed.
Absolutely. See, that's wacky, for lack of better words. Also being able to have that transparency. So we always ask the police department to give us more information, and we're kind of waiting for the press conferences and press releases. This allows the civilian review board to be like, hey, here are our findings. Here is what we recommended. The other thing too is that if you have a civilian review board that can only give recommendations to the police department, which feels like, well, that's kind of like, what power do we have? Essentially, you're not going to be able to make personnel changes. You're not their boss or whatever. But let's say that the police department does make a decision, the chief makes a decision that is widely unpopular or really out of left field, you at least have a review board saying of like, we are the police accountability group. We vehemently disagree with what's going on here, and we're going to make a stink about it. So it allows at least some sort of pressure at a very minimum, or at least amplifies a situation that people may not be aware of, especially if the police aren't speaking about it forthright. And then there's also just, like we mentioned, like either disciplinary actions or recommendations you can do. And again, that goes to different degrees and scales. It really depends on what kind of agreements that you're making within the local government, the union, the department itself. Instead of trying to list all the other things, it's probably best of like, look, again, I really recommend looking at NACOL. It has incredible resources in there. And that's kind of like the gold standard that everybody bases their stuff off of. So that's like a general overview. There's more things in here. I try not to read directly off of paper, but I need notes. Before I ask about, or I talk a little bit about what action you can take, do we have any other questions that are burning? Yes?
I'm curious if the
review board members are compensated? And I ask because I think of juries, right?
Right.
You skew demographics when people are available. So would review board members, are they typically compensated?
Yes, typically, as far as what I know, I don't know of any civilian review boards that are volunteer-based. They may exist, but I'm just unaware of them. Because yes, the idea is that this is a pretty serious job. This isn't just let me go and volunteer and pick up some trash or anything. These are real lives on the line. So also we talk about sustainability, and if people can do these jobs, kind of like talking about politics and people running for government, you want the right people in there, but can they afford it? And so there is something about, fiscal compensation that makes it worth your while, and it's important work, right? So I know that was another piece about that of like the police, Chief K's being like, whoa, what about the, funding for this? And, we're going to have to pay these people. I'm like, yeah, you ask for funding for other things too, buddy. You're going to fund this too. So, I love that was like the hands in the air, and I'm like, we're not really serious here, right? But yeah, to the point there is that they should be compensated, even if it's not a full-time like salary kind of thing, but at least something partial,
A stipend.
A stipend, exactly. Yeah, but good question. Anyone else?
What's before the assembly now?
Right now, so a few months ago, there was, they did do a survey of people to come together over 2025 to talk about what we wanted. And we did make we did vote on it in front of the chief.
And how many people were in that room? That was quite a few.
Quite a few, I don't know, like 30 to 40. Yeah. And it was people that voted as long as they had attended or watched the videos, and kind of scouts honor on that. But people went in, and the majority did vote that they wanted a civilian review board, and they wanted it to have, pretty as much teeth as what was allowed. If you go to the Muni webpage, they do have information on that if you want to look into that a little bit deeper about what was discussed there. So right now they do have a proposal about a CRB, but it's made some, adjustments and changes that we're kind of like, I don't know if that, it sounds like we're going back to what we used to have, but you're telling me you're dressing it up differently, like lipstick on the pig, still a pig. So I think that right now, what we have the opportunity to do is to be able to speak out, have, come for public testimony. We can also show up at public safety and health committee meetings and speak publicly there. You can send in letters. There's lots of ways that you can take action. But right now, what we're looking at is people being able to look at what the proposal is and say, this does not work for me, or this does work for me, and here's why. I was going to say, what was the last iteration that we talked about?
Jeez, I don't know.
Right? I'm trying to keep up with it myself.
So the assembly members that are putting it forth are Felix and Anna.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a third one?
Is Cameron on that one? He's been working with them, but I didn't know if he had his name on this one.
I don't know if he has his name on it or not. And to be perfectly honest, Alaska Coalition for Justice has gone back and forth about whether we should endorse, I guess, basically what the assembly is putting forth, because the CRB model that they're putting forth does not have investigative power. It does not have subpoena power. It is basically a recommendation, which to us is, it doesn't have enough teeth. The CRB doesn't have enough teeth. But we also say it's a step.
Mm-hmm.
It's a step. And we all know from just doing this work, like, sometimes you just have to claw your way to get to where you want. And so we know that it's going to be a fight because of the funding and because the union's not going to want it. But I think at our last meeting, which was Tuesday, it was decided that we would support it, and with the caveat that it needs more teeth.
Yeah.
Like, this is a step in the right direction, but we want to keep working toward a civilian review board that actually can make official recommendations that the police chief has to take into account when he's making disciplinary decisions.
Yeah.
So I have a question about that, so that if the review board doesn't have subpoena power, so like whenever there's some investigation, they always say we're not allowed to comment on ongoing investigations.
Mhm.
Would the review board without subpoena powers be privy to more, like would they say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so
It
it would
would
be.
be privy to more information than the general public would be. Because they would be doing, it's almost like a side-by-side investigation. And it's one of the reasons why they wanted to put it up underneath the ombudsman, because the ombudsman does have subpoena power.
Oh, okay.
But there's some language in the charter, in Anchorage's municipal charter, that makes that difficult. But I say, just because it makes it difficult doesn't mean we can't do it. We've done difficult stuff before.
Yeah.
And in order to keep people safe, let's change a couple of things in the church and allow things to happen. Like, this is paperwork, it's process, it drives me nuts. Like, you're killing people, stop it.
Right.
Like, we're talking about paperwork. Easter is dead. She's gone, she was 16. 2 police officers took her life. Because she had a kitchen knife. We can't do better than that. As a community, as a society, if we have this much mental illness, our police cannot respond with violence when somebody is having an episode.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Say that.
I have been there. When I was drinking alcoholically, the cops had to come and get me out of the middle of the fucking street. They didn't hurt me. They helped me. They were peace officers. They could have arrested me, but they didn't. That's what we need. We need humanity. We need cops that care. And what we don't need is these quasi-military fools going in like everything is a SWAT mission.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, please. I will say to comment off of that, when I did my ride along at Fallout, it was really breathtaking. So I remember the captain and lieutenant that's presenting was like, hey, so I want to give a shout out to this person over here. It was this young female officer. It was newish. Like, she really did a great job at this, controlling this situation. And apparently it was another teen who was going through a mental health crisis. And I guess this person like helped calm them down when around me. So they were like, yeah, they're putting up a fight. I mean, I was really losing my mind. I probably got a little bit rougher with her. And then they're all just laughing about it. And I was like, wow. And they were just like, so good it was, and he was like, good it was you, because if it were me, it'd be a different story.
Yeah.
So.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I would love to talk to you another time about, I'm really feeling like we have to have walking officers. Like, I don't know about anybody in the room. I only encounter a police officer when I'm pulled over. They don't know us.
I saw walking patrol downtown. They're walking now.
I was gonna say, I just saw something.
Spinard.
Yeah, it was in the paper,
Who knows the
but
cops? Maybe
it's out.
they're related, but I don't know any cops.
They're more visible. They're more visible. I ride Anchorage, and I see foot patrol cops now.
That's
We
good
used
to
to not
hear.
have any.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they can at least get to know people. But that's kind of like the whole ride-along thing, the whole academy. It can be also a way to just develop more relationships with civilians and cops. Because I think that
Absolutely.
thick black line is, but yeah, I'd like to pick your brain someday
Yeah.
about that.
Please. I will say too, in the interim of whatever happens here, my argument is the most oversight that we can have now, just based on the one ride-along I had, is doing ride-alongs and sit-alongs. And by the way, sit-alongs are the same thing, but you sit with dispatch. And that's really harrowing. Like, whew, 12-hour shifts, 3 giant screens, and they're just, it's really, oof, yeah. A lot of crazy stuff. My wife talked about listening to some crazy calls. Yeah, but getting eyes on that I got to see things and hear things. And he had no idea I was from ACJ, which I'm sure if he did, probably would have acted a little bit differently. But I put on my little costume and got in there and be like, but that is a great way to have eyes on them. So I do recommend for anyone you can, is to sign up for one of those. Any other questions before we talk about? Bless you.
Is that information on doing that written down here, or how would we find it?
About signing up for a ride along?
Yeah.
It's not on here, but I'm happy to give you that information.
Out to the group that attended tonight, we can definitely send that out.
Yeah. Big thing is going to the APD website, Community Relations Unit. You should see signups for Ride Along there. It'll go through Amanda Romanis. She's one of the public information officers in the CRU, and they respond pretty quickly. So I got a response within the day.
Wow,
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really great. I got everything signed up probably with less than 3 days and was able to go the following week.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yes, so just a couple of things of how people can get involved. So ACJ meets every Tuesday at 3 p.m., sometimes for an hour, sometimes a couple, depending on the week and what's going on every other week. But we meet on Zoom. We just started meeting in person every so often, but we are Zoom based because we are Alaska. So we do have people that call in from Fairbanks and Juneau pretty consistently. And it's really great to also understand what they're going through in their communities. And then we learn from each other and we also support each other. So the stuff that we were doing here actually directly influenced what was going on in Juneau when, can't remember, is it Stephen Kisak? He was the folk that was unfortunately killed in downtown in front of a lot of people. And they came to us to kind of figure out how we could support each other. So yeah, all are welcome. And if whether you're brand new to this issue or not, please attend. It's a great group of folks. It's actually something I look forward to every week is chatting with folks and having some hope in humanity and knowing that we're not alone. So I absolutely recommend it. You'll find Erin and I on there. Now, other things that you can do tonight that are pretty accessible. So contacting. And by doing that, if you can do it tonight, like we said.
Who already did?
Okay. Oh, hey, love it. Look at that QR code.
Look at you. Don't be afraid. I just did it. It is super duper simple.
Super easy.
All you have to do is fill out your name, your address, your phone number, and your email, and hit send. It's super easy.
Yep.
And I think that it's going to make a difference because I know that the assembly members that are behind it really do believe it's got a chance of passing.
Yeah, and they do read all of it.
Email isn't exactly the same. A year and a half later, it was killed by a trooper.
Yep.
She was killed in raped and killed by a trooper. So that's my opening story.
Yeah.
I used to love law enforcement, then I met this, and so let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not that I don't dislike law enforcement.
Yeah.
I just want you to do your job.
Do what you're supposed to do.
It's a hard job. Nobody is saying that it is not a difficult job. But you signed us to do certain things, and so you should.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So yes, before tonight or before you leave, before you close your eyes for bed, do this little thing. Before you fall asleep, we'll be dreaming of CRBs dancing through your head.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe don't think about that. We'll wake up in the next morning. But there are other ways to get engaged as well, like as those opportunities. Like I mentioned, going to public safety and health committee meetings, or at least watching them. You can watch these meetings on YouTube.
Yeah.
I always try to tune in. And then, of course, if we get to that point where you need public testimony, there's several of us have done it. I'm your gal. I love organizing public testimony, so you can daisy chain it. So if you want to hit multiple points, you organize with it so that I'm a former debate, as we're talking about debate, I'm a former debate girly. I was a debate yes. Yes, I did the hardest debate because I am that way. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can still have that communication. But first and foremost, the easiest one is this one. Other questions? Anything else? Happy to continue this conversation offline, be a resource. I even liked what they were talking about with like youth candidates and stuff. Like, hey, as someone who almost ran for West Anchorage Assembly, I can tell you why I didn't do it.
She's going to. We need you, Mercedes.
I'll see about it. But yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. Before you leave, please grab to-go containers, food, because we want to not take it home.
And the items on the table are for you to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure that they eat all the cool people have stand-up Alaska stickers on their computers.
Oh yeah.
And there's tattoos too. You can come to the next No Kings Round with a stand-up Alaska tattoo.
And buttons.